Welcome to Calf Academy, your source for calf care education.
Calf performance benchmarks. Since raising dairy replacement heifers is a huge investment on a dairy operation, measuring and monitoring performance along the way is a very good idea in order to make sure we get the right kind of return on investment. So measuring the calf growth from birth to weaning is obvious, and then post-weaning to breeding age, and then from breeding to calving. Every one of these steps should have some degree of measurement involved to make sure we're meeting the end goal of having a highly productive, healthy heifer entering the milking string. Since every dairy operation is likely different, they may have different goals. So working with the dairy producer to set those goals for monitoring growth rates of the calf and the heifer at every stage of the management changes. It may not be possible to do that for all age groups, and if so, it really should be a good idea to focus in on those youngest animals, those from birth to weaning. So, as everybody knows, or should know, colostrum is really the number one priority on every calf raising operation. We have to get colostrum right. If we get that right, everything else, it comes along a whole lot easier. So this is just a reminder that colostrum is a very important thing as we're thinking about what we're going to measure making sure calves get their colostrum correctly as well. So typically with pre-weaning calves, we measure from 24 hours, and sometimes it's 48 hours, to 60 days of age. We look at mortality according to Dairy Calf and Heifer Association gold standards. Mortality typically should be less than 5%. Morbidity, which is the measure of disease that does not cause death, it has two typical areas we look at: morbidity and diarrhea, and morbidity for pneumonia. Calves should be less than 25% of the calves have a bout of diarrhea. In pneumonia, in that first 24 to 60 days of age, 24 hours to 60 days of age, pneumonia we should be looking at less than 10% of the animals. So when we look at average daily gain, we always talk about doubling the birth weight from birth to 60 days of age. That is a very well accepted standard in the calf raising industry. But when we look at 61 to 120 days of age, we think about more in terms of 2.2 pounds per day average daily gain. And then from 121 to 180 days of age, we're more realistically looking at 2 pounds average daily gain. So when we look at breeding age heifers, 13 to 15 months typically, they should weigh around that 825 to 900 pounds. But maybe a better way to look at it is, what is the mature weight of the herd? In other words, the older cows in the herd, what do they weigh? And then use a 55% figure to look at our breeding age heifers. Hip height is typically 50 inches. And wither height is a little bit more than 48 inches. So when the heifers get to the point where they're going to be freshening, they should be around that 1,350 pounds, or 85% of the weight of the full-term pregnant cow. Body condition score, we look at typically around 3.5 on a scale of 5. And look for a range of 1.7 to 2 pounds per day average daily gain from birth to pre-fresh. So when we monitor performance, it's typically around weight. So if we've got a scale on the farm, or we can bring a scale on the farm, it really makes things better, more accurate, or more precise, because we can only change what we can measure. So it's way better to measure individuals than it is, for example, like a trailer weight, where we've got a group of animals, then we divide and get an average weight for the group. If you don't have a scale that you can bring in the operation, weight tapes work fairly well, as long as we have consistency of individuals who weigh the animals all the time. Hip height sticks are effective ways to capture growth. A good time to be able to do that is when we've got have the animals caught up for doing other things like, routine vaccinations or health checks or things like that. So all about monitoring growth and height and those sorts of things. It's all about taking action after you figure out what the animals are doing or how they're doing. And having a plan in place is the result of the measurements that we take. So when calves fall short of their goals, always go back and look at your colostrum program. Start from the beginning to make sure there hasn't been any things overlooked in that part of the program. Look through your feeding and management protocols. It really matters to do the same thing for calves every single time, every single feeding. Bring people in to help you with your analysis, nutritionist for the farm, your herd veterinarian, and just do a good walk through the facilities to make sure there aren't any environmental or management issues that you might be missing. So let's go through a few common pitfalls that farms experience when they don't meet their performance goals. Here again, we're going to talk about colostrum. Make sure that they receive the right amount. They have to have that 150 to 200 grams of immunoglobulins administered very early, within a couple hours of birth. Make sure that the colostrum is good quality, clean, that's not dirty colostrum. If so, you might want to consider a quality colostrum replacer. No other single action, and we'll keep repeating this, no other single action can have as profound an impact on calf health and growth as good quality colostrum administered properly. So another common area we have to look at is just how much nutrition is the calf receiving. In a nutrition program that only feeds, a pound of dry matter a day, in almost every situation, that is not a good program. We need to get more towards what's appropriate if the calf was nursing off the cow, which is typically up in that range of 2 to 2.5 pounds of milk solids every day. Or that's about the equivalent of 2.5 gallons of milk or 2.5 pounds of milk replacer. When we feed these high level of milk solids, however, it can be a challenge to get the calves started on calf starter and getting their rumens developed properly. Oftentimes, calf raisers, they put in long stem hay too soon into the calf, and that will delay rumen development. A good quality calf starter in that 18 to 20% or so protein range with no hay through that at least a 10 to 12 week period can do the best job of supporting good, proper rumen development. So let's look at real common areas that we need to examine is the environment. The environment includes two main areas. Is the air of good quality? Is the area in which the calf lives clean? And is the equipment that we use to provide food and water, milk, grain, and water, is that equipment clean? So regularly walking through and examining air quality and sanitation practices become very, very important, because we don't want those easy things like that to limit our performance in the growth of our animals. Direct any questions you may have to your calf specialist.
Thank you for completing this Calf Academy course. If you have follow-up questions, please contact your Milk Products National Account Manager